Welcome, Viking fans, to Skull State of Mind. I'm your host, David Woods, and we got an interesting podcast episode for you. So stay tuned. Here's the intro.
Hey there, Vikings Nation. Get ready to dive deep into the Skull State of Mind. Join our host, D. Woods, as he shares his unfiltered takes on all things Vikings, from expert game analysis to player controversies and everything in between. If you love the Vikings for better or worse, then you've come to the right place. So grab a drink and let's talk all things purple and gold. This is the Skull State of Mind podcast.
That's right. We back. Episode 3, Skull State of Mind podcast. If you haven't already, like, subscribe so you can get the content on a regular. So let's dive right into it because I know I haven't been on a couple of weeks. I haven't really been consistent, but we're going to try it. The Netflix series Quarterbacks. I know I put a tweet out there saying everybody, don't ruin it for me. I appreciate everybody out there that didn't ruin it for me. I only have about 2 episodes left, and I'm really feeling the series. I'm really feeling it. The Pat Mahomes situation, Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota. I'm actually having a newfound respect for Kirk Cousins. Considering he was the most hit quarterback last year, and the guy just kept getting up and kept making plays and kept playing. I mean, I just really have a newfound respect for Kirk Cousins going forward, and it's actually getting me more hype for next season, to considering that they did all that with bad offensive line, bad defense, 13-4. So hopefully, the Vikings can build on that and have a great season. But we're going to come back to Kirk Cousins. I never knew that Patrick Mahomes was a big shit talker. He really gives me Phillip River vibes. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I mean, when you're the best quarterback in the league, talk your shit. I'm not mad at it, but just going into depth of Pat Mahomes and seeing, him creating plays on the fly, just being comfortable in that offense. And one thing that I looked at, during the series too, was him driving his pregnant wife. Let's get that out there. His pregnant wife and his young kid home after the game. That really made me feel like, damn, Pat Mahomes, at the end of the day, he's just a normal guy like everybody else. Yeah, he might have the $200 million contracts, but he's just driving his wife and kid home like everybody else do. I thought them showing that light in the series, was kind of cool, but Mariota, I know everybody, talking about Mariota, having this child and quitting on the team, but I think about it like this. They only have 4 games left in the season. So what was he going to do? Sitting on the clipboard? There was no guarantee that he was going to sign back there. We know he wasn't going to sign back there. So I'm not really too upset about him, moving on and, having the surgery so he can be, 100% healthy for this season coming up, because they were going to go with Desmond Ridder anyway. But that's just the news about those 2 players that's on the series. I just thought I would give them some respect. But, our guy, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, man, the whole mental aspect of it, putting in the work, in the film room, having people come to his house and make sure his body is right. Me, honestly, I'm going to still have my complaints about Kirk Cousins from time to time, because I mean, he is the starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. So you're going to have your complaints going forward. But I'm just this whole series put Kirk in a whole new light for me. It's man, this guy really puts in the work outside of the field. I mean, and that's, to me, is much appreciated. I hear a lot of fans out there, criticize Kirk Cousins, and it's oh, he don't make no calls on his own, and he should be doing this and he should be doing that. You saw in that series that Kirk tried to win the Buffalo game with the quarterback sneak. Kevin O'Connell did not call that play. That was something that Kirk Cousins did himself. So we gotta figure it out as fans. Are we gonna complain about everything that Kirk Cousins does? Oh, he don't call his own plays. He don't do no audibles. He don't do this. And then when we see the series where he's actually doing it, we don't even give him no credit for it. But me personally, I'm gonna give him credit for it. So, Kirk Cousins, man, you did your thing last season. Hopefully, you can build on that. 13-4 was a tall task. I understand we might have a drawback next season because there's more film, on our offense and the struggling defense. But like the series, in all honesty, though, I really feel like it opened up my eye about Kirk Cousins a whole lot more, and I have much respect for Kirk Cousins. So going forward, I know you guys all heard about Jordan Addison, 140 in the 50 speeding zone on the Minnesota highway. I'm not sure it was the highway or whatever, but boy got problems. I mean, us Vikings fans, we've seen it before. Um, we've seen it in 2001 with Randy Moss when he basically drug a meter maid for a couple of blocks or however it was. I'm not there, so I don't really know the details, but I know he got cited for that. Corin Robinson in 2006, basically he was speeding downtown Minnesota doing 120. This is how I really feel about the situation. When I heard about it and read about it, saw the tweets and, just looking online, like, damn, this kid really did this. Like, it really gave me like Henry Ruggs vibes. And it's like, I understand that nobody got hurt, but when you're doing those excessive speeds, the slight movement can roll over your car. You can crash into something. Like, it's completely dangerous, and it's basically like playing with fire. And I just feel like, Jordan Addison is young. I'm not going to even go in and say like, oh, he's making money and he's doing this, and it's like, we got to be safe human beings first. And him driving around erratically, basically being reckless, doing 140, like, anything could happen. He could hit a kid. He could hit a mom. He could hit a dad. He could hit anybody, and that's the end of their life. So I really feel like going forward, maybe the league or the Vikings organization needs to suspend him. I know that might be an unpopular opinion, but you have to set precedent with things like that. Like, in my opinion, you do, because he does this now, and let's say, he gets a slap on the wrist, and, maybe he gets a fine by the league, and, he got to go to traffic court, everything like that. That's cool. But what if he does it again? Like, you got to make sure he understands that this kind of behavior is not tolerated. I mean, it's only in his first year. He ain't even stepped on the football field yet and played his first game, and he's already in the media in the wrong way. So I know some people out there are going to be like, oh, no, it's just a traffic ticket or whatever. Yeah, it's just a traffic ticket. But he was doing 140 in a 50 per mile hour speed limit. Like, that's 90 miles over the speed limit. Like, that's completely dangerous. And I'm just like, you have to hold them accountable going forward. Like, I don't know if there's people in the Vikings organization that can basically, help them out and tell them, you can't be doing these things and stuff like that. I mean, one of the perfect guys, his coaches, Keenan McCardell, perfect guy for him to sit Addison down and talk to him and be like, look, man, you can't be doing this, because he can ruin his whole career by doing stupid things like that. We've seen it happen before with these players. They make one stupid decision and it ruins their whole career. And I got high hope for Jordan Addison. I really do. I really want him to succeed, not just because he's a Viking, but just because I understand the aspect of, giving your life basically to football with practices and having to keep your grades up. Like, he's really made this commitment to reach the highest level. And I wouldn't want him to tarnish that or not benefit from that for just a stupid, behavior. So going forward, Jordan Addison, I hope you get your help that you need. And, just be careful out there, man. Just be careful out there. So Justin Jefferson's extension. We have no word about it yet. I just thought it was a topic I would just bring up right now, because we really have no word on the Justin Jefferson extension. Like, we heard talks and we heard this, we heard that. I mean, we already know Jefferson is probably going to break the bank and be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, which, in my opinion, is going to set the market. But I think also, too, he might be one of the last receivers to get paid that amount of money. You know what? Let me correct myself. Jamar Chase next year will probably be the last receiver to get that kind of money, because I have a theory. I have a theory that after Jefferson and Chase get their money and they get these crazy contracts, I think the NFL is going to do the same thing they did with the running back that they're doing with the running backs and devalue. Because if you really think about it, though, a lot of these college offenses, they're just passing the ball. They're just passing the ball. Running backs are not being drafted as much as they was in the first round. And you every year you get a top rookie receiver coming out every year. And sometimes it's not even in the first round. You get receivers developing in the third round, in the second round. So what I'm thinking is, why would teams pay, that $25 to $40 million for a non-quarterback for a receiver when they already know that they can probably draft one and develop one in the next couple of years? And that's exactly what they're doing with the running back position. So I'm thinking that I'm gonna be watching it, and I just really hope, they don't devalue it as much as they did the running back position. But if you think about it, really though, I think Cooper Kupp, he wasn't a first round draft pick. I'm not sure, but these receivers are coming out ready to go. So why would you keep paying, these receivers that much money? Now, since we're talking about devalue positions, Dalvin Cook. What's going on with Dalvin Cook? I made a video a few weeks ago about Dalvin Cook landing spots. We were talking about, basically every team in the AFC East, but he ain't signed nowhere yet. Then there was reports about maybe, his domestic, violence situation, from a year or two ago is kind of hindering teams from signing him because they're not sure if he's going to be able to play all 17 games. I mean, shit, Cook first year is playing all 17 games last season with him not being hurt. But it will be a factor if you want to bring a guy new to your organization. You want to make sure that he's going to be available to start and play and be productive without those games. And then there were reports saying that basically, like, there is some kind of settlement out there, and Cook's not going to see any severe suspension. But with the NFL, they can say one thing and they can do another. So we really don't know what to say here, but there are reports saying that the Vikings have offered Cook like $7 million to come back. Now, this is how I feel about that. If you're going to offer Dalvin Cook $7 million to come back, then why did you cut him? I just feel like this is starting to look like Kwesi may have, his hands tied somewhere, or maybe he doesn't really know what he's doing going forward, because they could have cut Cook at the beginning of the offseason and saved the same amount of money that they're saving now, but they waited and they played the game with trying to trade him and trying to do good by him. All these other reports came out and like that, and then they just cut him. And now there's reports saying that they're going to bring him back for $7 million. I don't know. I would love to have Cook back. Like, I'm not saying Cook's talent, isn't warranted to be on this team. The more weapons the Vikings have, the better their season can be. Like, I'm with that. But what does that mean for Alexander Mattison? Like, he's slated to be the Viking starter week 1. But if you bring Cook back, is Cook going to be in a backup role? I don't think so. So it's kind of like, is really making me question Kwesi a whole lot, because it's like, what are you doing? Do you actually have a plan at running back on what you want to do? And are you feeling sorry that Cook hasn't got a job out there, or are you trying to lowball him again? Or maybe this is just the money that they offered Cook for a pay cut and basically told him on the way out, like, hey, your pay cut is still on the table. We don't know. We're not in the building. We don't make the decisions, but it's just kind of weird though to cut a guy and then offer him a contract back and say it's on the table. I'm just really questioning Kwesi going forward. And just like I said before, on other podcasts and, this podcast and, different posts, that we're still measuring like Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi, because they're both new in their respective roles. This is actually the first time, Quasi is a general manager for an NFL team where he's calling the shots. Some say the Wilfs are calling the shots. I mean, shit, the Wilfs are calling the shots anyway because they are the owners of the teams. So they're going to have their say so regardless of who the general manager is. So we don't know what to expect by these guys, but now we can get some kind of notes down to kind of figure it out, of what's going on. All right. Danielle Hunter. There still hasn't been much word about the Danielle Hunter situation going on. It's a big dilemma that's hanging over training camp. I mean, at this point, I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not sure what the salary cap implications are if you trade him or if you cut him. I'm not a salary cap guru. I told you guys that before. I'm just giving you my unfiltered opinion. But in all honesty, I would like to see Danielle Hunter on maybe a 2 to 3 year deal because I want to keep him in the building. I'm not sure what the Vikings really have as pass rushers outside of Danielle Hunter. Like the guy that they signed, in free agency from the Saints. I mean, the guy only had a half a sack last season. And he had a lot of pressure, stuff like that, but he just couldn't close the job. Like, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Danielle, but if they move him, trade him, let him go, or do anything else, I'm not sure the Vikings have the pass rush to actually, scare some offenses going forward. And I really honestly think that with the similar style in Brian Flores and Mike Zimmer, I think he wants Danielle Hunter to be in the building, and maybe he doesn't even take the job if he knows that Danielle Hunter is not here. And speaking of Brian Flores, let's just get this out right now. And I've been thinking this for a while. Let's stop thinking that Brian Flores is going to be here for the next 2 to 3 seasons. Okay? Think about it like this. The Vikings were one of the worst defenses in the league last year. So if Brian Flores can make any progress with this defense and get them in the middle of a pack, he's done a great job. And if you see that he's done a great job with one of the worst defenses in the league and brought them to the middle of the pack, he's going to get interviews for head coaching vacancies. It's going to happen. But what I want to see is the guys that Brian Flores are bringing in, or whoever is behind him or whatever, did Kevin O'Connell actually have someone in the background to kind of figure out what Brian Flores is doing, to kind of be like an understudy, just in case Flores gets another job next season. These young players don't start back at, ground zero again just because, the D coordinator has left. That's something to think about too. All right. Everson Griffin. This is probably one of my favorite players as a Viking. And it's just real sad to see that he's going through these things in his personal life. He just got a DWI in Minnesota. And I don't really want to get into the severity of the issue, but I just want everyone out there to understand that these players deal with a lot of issues. Like, they deal with a lot of issues, and we need to kind of start when we reporting or when we're doing these podcasts. We need to understand that these guys are people first before they're NFL players and stuff like that. Like me being from Southern California, out here in San Bernardino County now, Everson Griffin went to UFC, and I was USC, sorry. And I was so excited, for him to become a Viking. And he's, on that defense for a while for, his tenure here. Like, he was the heartbeat of that defense. It's just like, I loved Everson Griffin, and I wish him the best, but I just feel like, we got to understand that some of these players with a lot of hits to the head, CTE, all this stuff is real with the concussions on top of, mental issues. Like, we knew of some of the mental issues that Everson Griffin was having before he started his NFL career. So I just wanted to make sure in my podcast that I show my respect for Everson Griffin and, wish him the best. And, hopefully he can get the help that he needs. Now, this is a big topic, going forward, which is the training camp. Players are reporting to training camp Sunday, which is today. This podcast might be out, on Monday or Wednesday. Haven't decided when I'm gonna drop it yet. But these are some things that I'm looking forward to seeing in training camp. I already talked about Brian Flores, but I want to see what that defense is going to look like. All right. For those of you out there who have this weird thinking of thinking Lewis Seen is a bust, the kid broke his leg last year. Okay. He broke his leg last year playing special teams. And this is how I feel about the special team situation. If a lot of you fans out there feel that Donatello was not running the defense right, then you have to give the rookies a pass this season. You have to, because if he wasn't running the defense right, then that basically means he wasn't putting players in the right situation to excel, i.e., Lewis Seen and Brian Asamoah, a couple of young players. So you can't sit there and say like, oh, he's a bust because the rumblings is like, oh, he's behind Cam Bynum in mini camp and OTAs. Yeah, he's recovering from an injury. Like, let's give the kids some time to figure it out. And I have this real theory about Lewis Seen too, and I kind of feel the same way. I expressed it months ago that maybe Lewis Seen is not a safety. Maybe Lewis Seen could be one of those hybrid safety linebacker type, because he is big enough and he is tall enough and he is strong enough to actually play linebacker. Maybe he might spend some time as linebacker, or depending on what kind of sub packages Brian Flores puts out. But I'm open to it. I like the kid. He's fast. I just really hope he learns the NFL version of how to hit and not be a headhunter going forward, because we don't need him getting suspended and getting too many fines for that. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Lewis Seen is going to develop into under Brian Flores. And I'm not going to be the one to sit there and say like, hey, he has to start week 1. I'm not saying that, because we in a different NFL now, and Brian Flores wasn't on the staff when they drafted him. So we got to see how it pans out. And Cam Bynum, he's already, there. He knows a little bit about the defense, because considering like, we got to really consider that Brian Flores and Mike Zimmer, they come from a similar coaching tree. They actually do. So we have to really wait and see. Asamoah, I'm not big on Brian Asamoah at all. I'm not. I think he's too small. I think in the Lion games, I know in the Lion game, like he got forklifted by a wide receiver. And if you're a linebacker in the NFL, you can't have these receivers out here pushing you around like that. So Brian Asamoah is my guy. Like, everyone's hyping him up, and he's a guy like I'm really not big on. I'm really not. But that's what I want to see in training camp. As for for the defense. Oh, let me get back to the defense. I'm sorry, I'm going too ahead of myself. Let's see who are going to be the pass rushers and who can get to the quarterback consistently outside of Danielle Hunter. Because like I said before, we don't know what's going on with Danielle Hunter. We really don't. Hope that Harrison Smith can actually get back to the way he's been playing football his whole career. Down in the box, rushing the quarterback a little bit. Like, just get back to Harry the Hitman. Let's see what the defensive backs look like. I really think if Andrew Booth stays healthy, he's going to be a factor. But, the best ability is availability. So we got to wait and see what his health is going to be like, going forward. Caleb Evans, like, he made strides last year, but the guy had like 3-4 concussions, and like, I don't know what's going on there. I really don't know what's going on there. So the linebackers too, is like, let's see what's going to happen with these linebackers, because I think the Vikings are really soft at linebacker. So let's see what develops in training camp. As far as the offense, let's see how fast Jordan Addison can actually be on the field and not on the highway. Like, let's see if he can come in and contribute, day one. You got guys out there that's thinking like, oh, Jordan Addison is already penciled in as the number 2 receiver. I don't think so. The number 2 receiver is KJ Osborne. I feel KJ Osborne was number 2 last year. Like, Thielen was actually number 3. And the plays that KJ actually made, in certain games, like the Bills game, the Colts game, like he was making plays, the Carolina game, he was making plays like all over the field. And I think going into this season, he is the number 2 receiver. Addison has to pick up and figure things out. And if he can be a legit number 3 this season, that's great. That's great. I'm expecting a big year from TJ Hockenson going forward, considering that he's going to be in this offense the whole season with the training camp. So considering what he did just coming in at the trade deadline was tremendous. It was dope. He did a great job. Let's see how more comfortable Kirk Cousins is going forward in the offseason too. Let's actually see how Kevin O'Connell is going to change this offense and basically run the ball more efficiently. That's what I want to see too. You got Ed Oliver, which is a run blocking tight end. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out what this offense is going to look like if they can run the ball efficiently. I'm not saying just rack up a gang of carries and see what happens. I'm saying like, hey, 2nd and 2, boom, Madison gets 3 yards, first down. Like keeping the chains moving, like nothing too cute like he was doing before, where it's like 3rd and 2 and you got guys dropping back, you got Kirk dropping back for a long pass. Like, bro, you only need 2 yards. You only need 2. So that's the end of this show, man. I just want to, say things pretty quick and let you guys know I'm still out here. I'm trying to make consistent videos and subscribe to the podcast. I mean, you can find us on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram, especially YouTube, but going forward, I'm going to be really consistent with bringing these videos to you guys and giving you guys more Viking content from the Skull State of Mind perspective. Skull.
Thanks for tuning into the Skull State of Mind podcast. Take a beat to give us a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. Join us next time, and don't forget to follow Skull State of Mind on all social media platforms to keep up with all the news and updates. Thanks again for listening, and as always, Skull Vikings.